Good morning from Disney's Pop Century Resort. I'm up bright and early this morning because it is a very special day. Today, Robbie is running the half marathon all around Walt Disney World, and I'm going to go to the finish line to watch him cross that line and celebrate with him. So let's go.
Are you ready to do this?
Let's do it in 3, 2, 1, go!
On November 7th, I participated in my very first Run Disney event, the Disney Half Marathon for Wine and Dine Half Marathon Weekend. And this event overall I thought was so much fun. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was a lot. I will say I am not a runner at all. And I was not doing this for time or anything, just kind of doing it for fun. But so much fun overall. The morning was very, very early. We woke up at like 2 a.m. and this was also daylight savings time, so luckily we got an extra hour of sleep. But woke up at 2 a.m., had to be in the Epcot parking lot. I had to be in the Epcot parking lot by 3:30 a.m. to get on a bus to go over to the Magic Kingdom parking lot for the starting line. So a lot of back and forth and whatnot, but a lot of fun, a lot of people overall. I think there were close to 10,000 runners in this race, so that's kind of crazy. But at the starting line, they had some like food trucks where you can get some coffee before the race, which I did not do because I did not think that was the greatest idea. But they also had a DJ there to kind of keep everybody entertained, playing some music. There were some characters coming out as well, having some fun. But also it was very cold this morning. Low 50s, I think the feels like was like 47. So pretty brisk morning for running. But the start of the race was at 5 a.m. Little did I know that does not mean that's the time you actually do start, because they kind of break it up into chunks, so everything's kind of staggered a little bit. I don't think I actually started the race until like 5:45.
Right, that was about when.
So quite a long morning prior to the race, but once it started off, the fun began, and Run Disney's slogan is "Every mile is magic," and I expected there to be characters on the course. I did not expect there to be that much, though. Right off the bat, at like mile marker, like 0.5 miles, there was already a character. So started right off with Cruella de Vil. I think there were like 15 characters total. Some that you don't see ever at all in the parks. Some that people didn't even know who they were. Like people didn't know Sheriff of Nottingham or Prince John. So a lot of fun. I will say there were some parts of the course that were rather uneventful, pretty boring. Specifically the part from the TTC over to Animal Kingdom. It's just a long stretch of nothing to look at. They did kind of pipe in music and had some like facades placed with some lighting effects and whatnot. But overall, not the most exciting part of the course. Once I got into Animal Kingdom, then that's where it was like, okay, this is really cool. Kind of walked backstage, even saw an elephant, which is pretty cool. Never thought I would see an elephant while running a half marathon, so that was fun. But yeah, lots of fun characters, and about halfway through, they even gave us a little snack. So we got some fruit snacks to keep us going, give us some extra sugar. There were also plenty of water stops and medical stops along the way too. And then once we got into Animal Kingdom, kind of ran through Animal Kingdom, quite around the park as well. Ran through Africa, into Pandora, back over into Asia, and then through Disneyland and out of the park, through like backstage areas as well, which is pretty cool to see. And then from there went over to Hollywood Studios. We're in Hollywood Studios for a very short period of time. Basically just ran past Tower of Terror, and then like the Fantasmic and Beauty and the Beast theater, and then out of the park, and then ran over to the boardwalk, across the boardwalk, and then into Epcot. around the world showcase, and then out where I met up with you. So, finished the race in total time per Disney, just under 3.5 hours, which was basically my goal was just to finish the race, so I'm happy with that. What I've been kind of training for was about the 3-hour mark, which I had my Fitbit on as well, and I kept pausing it every time I stopped for a character. And per that time, I was at about like 2 hours and 51 minutes. So pretty much I'm at my goal. Very happy with that. Have never done the full 13 miles when I was training too, so that was pretty exciting to actually hit the goal. So
I think the other thing to point out too is that you initially didn't want to do the half marathon.
True. My initial plan was to do the 10K for this weekend and then try for the half marathon in January for the full marathon weekend. But the 10K filled up fast, as did the 5K.
What was strange with the 10K though was that about a month or so ago, they had spots open in the 10K. But because you'd already signed up for the half,
yeah,
he couldn't switch without paying quite a bit. So, stuck it out with the half marathon, which is wonderful and impressive, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I don't know that I would do another half marathon next. I think I would try the other shorter distances. For me personally, right around like the 10-mile mark is when it started getting really, really rough. But yeah, the characters were kind of like a motivation to keep me going. Like if I saw a character in the distance, I'd be like, hey, gonna run to them, and then I can stop for a few minutes and take a picture. Which the pictures, that whole process was very, very well organized, I will say, because you just kind of run up. Everything is linked to the bib, so you wear the runner bib, and on the back there's a little like kind of a hard plastic piece, which is the tracking, which is how they're monitoring the tracking, which I'm sure you could touch on in a second. But all of the numbers of the bibs are what they use for the pictures. So they take your picture, and then you just kind of keep running off. They don't have to scan your magic band or anything. And then within 48 hours after the race, everything is linked to the number, and there's instructions in the back of how to link it to your PhotoPass account and whatnot. But so many photographers in the race, in the parks, taking pictures while you're running, and then with all the characters and whatnot. But yeah. So how was the spectator experience?
Well, I got up with you at 2, and then I tried to go back to sleep and wasn't successful because it was an exciting day, you know. And so I got up, got myself together, and got on a bus. I left our room at Pop Century at 6:30 in the morning and walked, and there was a bus waiting, and I had my sign. I was the only one on our bus with a sign, and the cast members were like, yeah, and woohoo, and I was like, yeah, woohoo, with my sign. So I got on the bus, and then the bus took me to the Epcot parking lot. So it took me right to the finish line, and then I just kind of hung out for a bit. And it was very cool to watch all the different people finish and see all the different outfits, because lots of people dress up. That's one thing. You didn't do that this time.
No.
So maybe next time.
Maybe the shorter races.
But there were a lot of fun costumes, and like there were several Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, lots of evil stepsisters. They kept calling them ugly stepsisters, and I felt bad.
Oh.
Yeah. And Loki was another really popular costume for this race. But just villains.
Yes.
Villains in general. And of course, because the race was themed to Emperor's New Groove, there were several Kronks.
And Yzmas.
Out and about. Lots of Yzma, but especially Kronk.
Yes.
Lots of Kronks were running around and crossing the finish line. And it was, the announcers were trying to announce names at first, and by the time, like even an hour before you cross the finish line, they'd kind of slowed up on that a little bit. But when there was somebody like, I think there were people in their 70s who finished this half marathon, which I can't imagine.
Yeah, I think the youngest was maybe 14 and the oldest was, I think, 74.
But they were announcing and just saying congratulations. They were giving special kudos to veterans running, and just if they liked your outfit. They were just keeping the crowd definitely going and cheering people on as they finished the race. So it was very cool to see. And since I got there early, I was able to kind of stake out a spot up on the bleachers so I could stand up high because I am short. So I wanted to be able to see him and record him crossing the finish line. So I just kind of staked out a spot up high in the bleachers so that when it was time for him to cross the finish line, I was ready and I could see him on both sides coming through underneath the big facade that was the finish line.
Yeah.
And on the way, I was tracking him through, like, on the RunDisney website, you can put in the bib number of your person and track them along the course. And it gives you an estimated time when they think they'll finish, which, I mean, if they stop for characters and stuff, different things can impact it.
Right.
And it also didn't seem to be perfectly accurate. There were people around me who had a family member who was a little bit ahead of Robbie, and they were like, oh, she's a half mile out, she's a half mile out. But they had texted their person, and their person had said no. They weren't quite there yet. So Disney was projecting people a little further along than they actually were. So that's something to keep in mind if you're waiting for someone or recording. I just started recording really early, and Robbie got to watch about 7 minutes of other people crossing the finish line before he got to see himself.
That's okay.
I wanted to make sure I got it though.
Yeah.
But got it done, and then got to meet you after you got your medal and you got your little snack pack.
Yeah, when you finished, everyone got a Powerade and a water bottle and a banana, and then a little snack box that had kind of a random assortment of things. There were like sunflower seeds out of the shell, like goldfish graham cracker things, and then randomly tortilla chips and like cold nacho cheese in a little pack.
Everyone's favorite.
Not really sure why, but sure, why not? But yeah, overall, really cool experience, and so many people were running this race from, like I said, like 14 to like 74, I think was the age.
There was a man with 2 knee braces who crossed that finish line.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Well, the first people that started the race were actually hand bikes. So this race was very wheelchair friendly, very
inclusive.
Very inclusive.
For something like a half marathon where you think, oh no, I can't do that, which is like me, hello. They make it so that anybody can do it.
And there's also several different pacing groups where, like, I mean, you hear half marathon, that's 13 miles. That's a long way. And I surely did not run the full time. I did running, walking, the whole alternating method, the interval method, just because that's what works for me. But there were some pacing groups that were doing that, but significantly more walking than running. So if you are not a runner by any means, but you really want to try one of these races out, there was one group that was pretty much running for 10 seconds and then walking for the 50 seconds of a minute, and then running for 10 seconds and then walking for 50 seconds. So that seemed doable. And I think their pace time was like 3 hours and 15 minutes. Technically, Disney asks that you keep a minimum pace of 16 minutes per mile, which is not super out of the question. That's kind of like a fast walk or a very slow run pace per mile. So definitely something that's doable. Although if you do want to do any of the character meets, you do have to be ahead of that pacing group by quite a bit, because there was one point, specifically Pain and Panic, when I had to meet them, I got in line and the line was pretty long. And the cast member came out and said, so Pain and Panic have to go away but they'll be back in 5 minutes. Well, as I'm sitting there waiting for the 5-minute mark, I have pace groups passing me, and I'm getting a little nervous, but it all ended up okay. But yeah, definitely inclusive for anybody that wants to run, all ages, all running abilities, and whatnot. And got a pretty cool medal. And what's cool about this one actually is for the pink potion, it's like glitter, and it actually moves when you tip it, which is pretty cool. So very happy with this. And then, as you saw in the video that we posted last week, we celebrated the day by going to Epcot, taking some pictures around Epcot which was a lot of fun. I just thought it was cool to be seeing all the different characters and running through all the parks when it was pretty much empty, basically. I mean, definitely empty. There were cast members along the whole course cheering us on, which is nice. And then, of course, I had this one at the end cheering me on as well. So.
And watching was a really cool experience, too. I think they would encourage people, of course, who have somebody in their party to go watch, but that doesn't mean that if you just happen to be in Disney for a race weekend and just kind of want to see what it's like, maybe before you sign up for one yourself, you could, like, if you're staying on property, you can get on a bus that morning and take a bus out and watch people cross the finish line. You can be a spectator even if you're not with someone running.
Yeah, that's true.
So that might be a way to just kind of
get a feel for it before you spend that much.
Get your feet wet before you start putting your feet to the pavement.
Yeah.
So something to think about, definitely, or just something that's cool. Yeah. Something that's different, because it was cool to see all these different families cheering on their people. There was a tiny little boy who was maybe 3 who had a big sign that said, "Hurry up, Grandma, I want to go to lunch." So just all sorts of different families, all different ages, just celebrating their people running and doing this really big, cool accomplishment. And not only is it a half marathon, it's at Disney World.
Yeah.
So extra special.
And it was the first in-person race weekend since before COVID, which was another cool aspect to this whole weekend too. So, but yeah, highly recommend checking it out. If you don't want to do the half marathon, I recommend just checking out RunDisney in general. There's plenty of other distances you can try. There's 5Ks, there's 10Ks, there's 10-miler.
Or yoga. They're doing the sunrise yoga now too.
Yeah,
so
sunrise yoga in front of the castle. So that's one of the new features for this year. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. There's also virtual races too. If you can't get out to Walt Disney World, there's plenty of virtual races online as well, and then you get shipped the whole medal and the shirt and everything as well. So much fun. Highly recommend it. But that will do it for our little review today of my experience with RunDisney. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you real soon.